everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk. Thank you for joining us. We'll wait a couple minutes to let everybody in who's registered. We know you're all in the middle of doing multiple things. Some of you are cleaning up dinner, some of you are trying to get kids to do homework, but if you're able to join us on video for part of the time, we do always love to see the faces and who's in our community. And so it is great if you're able to do that for a little bit. Thank you so much. While we are waiting, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself in the chat, and let us know either what school your kids go to or what community you're joining us from. It's really helpful to see the schools and communities that are represented tonight. So you can go ahead in the chat, introduce yourself and school or community that you represent. That would be great. Thank you. Thank you to those of you already putting that in the chat so we can see that representation from schools tonight. Awesome. Great. We are also going to put into the chat, along with all of these great introductions, a link to our events page so you can see events that are upcoming to register for. We have one just next week, which is a Spanish language talk. And then our next English language talk with Spanish translation is on March 4th. That's a special session that we've just added with Dr. Jeremiah Mock from UCSF. And we've added it because he's an expert on some of these newer nicotine products that have hit the market. There aren't a lot of guardrails for youth yet. He'll be here to talk about those. An example is pouches, and also talk about what we can do as a community to start advocating for policies that protect our kids better in terms of access. So that's March 4th. You can check that out on that link that we've put in there. And while you're doing that, Kim, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and give our Spanish translation room instructions,
Yeah,
if you
of
would.
course. Thank you, Jackie. Si usted desea escuchar la presentación en español, por favor, presione el icono de globo terráqueo, favor de elegir el idioma español. Si desea, puede silenciar el audio original cuando se le dé la opción. Por favor, tome nota que el orden de los iconos podían ser diferentes en su dispositivo móvil.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. See, more and more folks coming in. That's great to see you all. Thank you for all of those introductions, everyone. Great. Okay. So, good evening. Hi, everyone. My name's Jackie Davis. I'm your facilitator for the evening. I'm joined by the team at Marin Healthy Youth Partnerships. We often call ourselves MHIP, and we're the organization that runs and supports the Let's Talk discussion groups. These groups happen throughout the year, these discussions both in English and Spanish throughout the school year. But in addition to the discussions, we also have a lot of really useful content that's online on our website. So I want to encourage you to visit that Let's Talk site if you haven't before. Bite-sized nuggets of information, but also the ability to download our original Let's Talk booklets, which we used to pass out to 6th and 9th grade families before we were able to get all of that information online for easy access for you. So we'll put that link in the chat as well, and you can access that website throughout the year. I want to call out a special guest tonight. Allegra, where are you? Give a wave. Allegra Andreoli, thank you so much. Allegra is one of our MHIP youth ambassadors. She's a junior at Tam High, and she's part of a really extraordinary group of young people who are choosing to invest in a healthier community for Marin teens. She'll be here at the end of our session during Q&A if anyone has any questions specifically for a young person. And if you happen to have a young person in your house who would be really interested in being a youth ambassador, please reach out to us. It's really amazing to see what happens when folks like Allegra put their mind to it. So thank you for being here, Allegra. We really, really appreciate it. Tonight we're talking about connecting with our teens even through conflict. We're going to learn about something called the emotional escalation curve, how that impacts our kids, how that impacts us emotionally as parents, and we're going to learn about how to repair and reconnect in these situations. At MHIP, our work is substance use prevention, but we know that one of the most powerful foundations that we can give our kids for substance use prevention is actually connection, emotional attunement, communication, that these are really the foundations for healthy and thriving youth. So we're really excited that while we have the substance use prevention expertise, we can look to these other folks in the community who are doing this incredible work
Recording in
meaningfully connecting, meaningfully connecting with our kids, even through conflict. And our guests tonight are all about teaching evidence-based tools for that connection and parenting. So I'm going to introduce our guests for tonight from Cultivating Roots. We're so lucky to have all three of these wonderful women here. Caitlin Severin. Caitlin, you can give a little wave so we know who you are. Caitlin's a licensed marriage and family therapist with a master's in counseling psychology, and she's worked with teens and their families for over a decade now, focusing on fostering resilience, healthy communication, and personal growth. Hannah Takajo. Hannah, give her a wave. Hannah has a master's in education and a teaching credential that both focus on special education. And she's dedicated the past 10 years to teaching and case managing high school students in public schools. She's passionate about inclusivity, student success, and helping parents be strong advocates for their children. And we are all about that at MHIP too. And finally, Aaliyah Singh. Aaliyah, um, Aaliyah is a professional school counselor with a master's in counseling psychology and a pupil personnel services credential. Her experience is school counseling at both the middle school and the high school level, and she brings a passion for resilience, confidence, and independence in teens. So we're really excited to hear from these three women tonight and sort of get to harness all of their experience with teenagers and their work in schools and teaching and mental health. Before we do that, though, we know parenting can be a sensitive topic, and we always have a lot of feelings that come up during these sessions. I know I always do. So we hold community agreements, both for ourselves and the way we interact with each other. So Melissa is going to share those agreements with us.
Hey, parenting is not easy, and parenting around substance use issues is hard. There's no silver bullet, so we try to give you information that you can incorporate into your parenting style to do the best job you can. We are all learning together. Please do not blame yourself or anything that you did or didn't do based on what you learned here tonight. Let's make this a safe space to share ideas and learn while not judging others or giving advice. Self-care is essential in our world now more than ever, and please join us for the full time if you are able. Thanks.
Thanks, Melissa. All right, we will make time at the end for a Q&A session. So please hold on to your questions. If you just can't wait to get it out and you put it in the chat, one of our MHIP staff will record it and make sure that we get it asked at the end. I'm so excited to get started cultivating roots. I'm going to hand this over to you.
Thank you so much, Jackie, and your team. We are so excited to be here. So we're going to introduce ourselves again in case you didn't see our tiny box. But I am going to go ahead and share my screen so that you guys can all see our slides. We we love that there's going to be a Q&A because we love to get into deep conversations with everybody, and I know that's a little bit hard to do over Zoom, but there's going to be times throughout our presentation that we're going to ask you to say something in the chat, just to have this not be boring. We don't want to be a boring slideshow presentation for everybody. We've sat through many a boring slideshow, and that's our nightmare, is to bore you. We know you're multitasking right now. I pretty much always attend these talks, and I'm always doing like 5 different things. So totally down for that. But if you can participate, even if it's just in your mind, trying to have that engagement so that we don't want to bore you. So we are cultivating roots, pronounced cultivating. I know it's confusing the way that it's spelled. And we are here to talk about co-regulation, which I'm not sure if anybody's a New York Times reader, but there's just this huge study that came out, and it was talking about the most the strongest predictor for a long-term healthy relationship with a child and their parents when that child is an adult is having a healthy communicative relationship when they were a teenager. And so Aaliyah's going to share a little bit about why we started our business, but our whole model is around celebrating teens and really seeing all of their strengths instead of having the teen years be something that you fear and that you just like grit your teeth and get through. We all love teenagers. We've dedicated our lives to supporting them, and we want parents to be able to connect with their teens. And that being said, there are really challenging moments where things feel really hard. So we're going to give you some strategies today to get through those moments in a collaborative and healthy way instead of in a combative way that causes more tension. I'm Caitlin Severin. Jackie gave a beautiful introduction of me. So I'll just say my name and pass it on to Aaliyah.
And I'm Aaliyah Singh, so excited to be here.
And I'm Hannah Takajo, and Jackie did do a beautiful introduction for all of us. But we're very, very excited to be here. So thank you for having us. Okay, so today we are going to kind of shift the focus away from your teen, which can be hard to do because then it means that you have to look at yourself. And that can be a little bit uncomfortable because most of the time we're paying attention to our teens' behaviors, their feelings, their moods, their choices, their attitudes. But really, the biggest influence that we have with our teens is not about controlling them, but it's about understanding and managing ourselves so that we can show up for them. So today we're going to talk about your nervous system, your patterns, and what you actually do have power over, because that's kind of where all the influence of parenting can come from. And today we really want you guys to be able to leave with a practical tool that you can start using maybe even tonight after our presentation. And we really feel like when your nervous system is calm and regulated, your teen can really feel that. So yeah, okay. So we are going to start with asking you to describe one word that parenting feels like right now. Don't overthink it. It can be funny, it can be honest, and dramatic, but whatever captures what parenting feels like for you. Maybe it's messy, exhausting, incredible. So drop that in the chat for us. And we'll get you a second to do that.
Yep. Juggling, isn't that true? I feel like
Confusing.
yeah.
Demoralizing. Oh my gosh. I relate to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
I think so.
Messy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that about the co-regulation. We have a link at the end where you can put in your email and the resource that Hannah talked about that we're going to share with you today, we will send you. And so we can also include that research that was in the New York Times. Thankless. That's so true, right? You do all of these things and then they're like, but you didn't get the right shoes or whatever.
It's such a confession of me.
Thank you. You know I love to play a teenager.
You do it so well.
Exciting and many other things.
Yes.
Yep. Waves, Jessica.
Yeah.
Hey, Jessica Colvin. Yes, waves is so true. Up and down, a lot of the similar sentiments.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. It kind of helps us realize that we're all not alone and we're kind of all doing it together, because we all, at probably certain times, can feel one of those things or another when we're with our teens.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do before we really kind of dive in is just share a little bit more with you about why we created Cultivating Roots and what Cultivating Roots really is. So as Jackie mentioned when she introduced us, all of us have worked in public education and worked with tweens and teens throughout our career. And what we were noticing over the past couple of years is that the parents and caregivers of the adolescents that we were working with were really struggling. And most of our time was dedicated to working with their children. And we were getting phone calls and requests for meetings. And all of these parents and caregivers had really, really valid concerns and challenges that they wanted to discuss and get support around. And because of the way that our jobs worked, we didn't have the time to dedicate to them that we really wanted to. And we recognize that as, great of a relationship as we can develop with the tweens and teens that we work with, we're never going to replace the caregiver or parent in their life. And so we recognized this opportunity to really provide some kind of support that we didn't see out there to parents and guardians, because all of the work that you can do to support your teen, it starts with you. And we want to really empower parents and guardians to be their best self so that they can not only enjoy their experience of parenthood and, as Caitlin mentioned, foster those adult relationships, but that they can be confident in the choices that they're making to help their teens navigate the difficulties. It's harder to be a teenager than ever, which means it's harder to be the parent of a teenager than ever. And so what we did is we came together and we created this online platform called CultivaTeen Roots. And we are dedicated to supporting parents in feeling empowered in their journey through parenthood. And we're really excited to share some of our resources and information with you today. Okay, so if parenting a teen today feels hard, you are definitely not alone. Hence why we created CultivaTeen Roots. And when things feel intense with your teens, like whether they're slamming the door in your face or you feel like you're constantly nagging them to pick up their clothes off the floor or they're testing your boundaries, it doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. And we really want to emphasize that point. You all are here because you want to become the best parent or caregiver that you can. And so everything that we're going to talk about tonight is only to provide information and opportunities for you to reflect and build your skills. And so what's going on is you're living with a developing nervous system. Teenagers have a lot going on in their developing brains, and a lot of that impacts how they're able to regulate themselves on a day-to-day basis. And then at the same time, you are experiencing the ups and downs that they're going through, in addition to all of the things that are going on in your personal life, how you're experiencing relationships in the world around you. And so the combination of those things can lead to a lot of conflict. But what we really want to focus on tonight is understanding what's kind of underneath the surface of all of those intense interactions that you might be having with your children, so that you are able to, in those moments, respond to them with calm and confidence and clarity instead of being reactive. So we're going to be looking at a few key pieces tonight together. We're going to talk about how our own reactions and our own ability to regulate kind of shape the moments and the interactions that we have with our teens. We are also going to talk about what's actually going on in the teen brain during stress. And then some, as Caitlin mentioned, practical ways to calm the nervous system, first for yourself and then for your teen. And one of the most powerful things that parents can do, and this is something that we really believe in, it's not about saying the perfect thing. We see all the time, especially on social media, like, here's a script for what to say to your teen, and those, or your child, however old they are, and those can be really helpful as a framework. And depending on the way that you learn and absorb information, for some people that's really helpful. But I know in my own experience, sometimes I feel like if I have to memorize it, and if I don't say it exactly right, then I'm doing it wrong. And what we want you to understand is that you don't need to be perfect. You want to be able to model regulation, that whatever you say, it's going to be okay if you can be able to regulate yourself and stay calm and in the moment with your teen. And you don't need to fix everything tonight. We just really want to support you in building a framework to help things make more sense. So when you're in the moment, you'll feel like you have some tools that you can work with.
Okay, so I just want to put this out there. We have a lot of catchphrases. We love like a catchy slogan, and one of ours is facts over fear, because it took us 2 years to research our program and everything, because we wanted to make sure that everything was very evidence-based, as Jackie mentioned when she introduced us. And one of the things that we noticed of all the parenting resources out there, and I'm sure you all have read some of these books before, is fear sells. And so when people are trying to give advice to parents, they're like, what is going to make them buy this? And scaring you guys is makes people buy things, right? And so there's so much fear-based parenting support out there, and we really want to shift that narrative to empower parents. Like Aaliyah was saying, your calm nervous system, you're lending your calm nervous system to your teen who's developing theirs. And so you staying grounded in these moments, even though it feels like if your kid gets in a car, they're going to get in a car accident. If your kid goes to school, they're going to immediately start vaping, right? Like there's a million things to be scared of.
Which are valid.
So valid. Yeah, so valid. And when you take a step back and you look at the facts in front of you, you're just more able to tackle some of these really hard things. It doesn't make them less hard. It just makes you more regulated while you're approaching them. So just wanted to throw that out there so that you guys can know that's where we're coming from, because we know you're honestly just inundated with, especially if you have social media, you can get sucked into those rabbit holes. That I read this one parenting book that's pretty like prominent, and it felt to me like it was like, if your kid gets a driver's license, they will die by car accident. Like everything just felt so intense. So we know you're getting those messages a lot. So 3 common things that happen when there's conflict or your teenager stressed out, they're yelling at you, they're upset that they failed a test, they are having a conflict with their friends, they're just in a bad mood. 3 things that parents sometimes do that don't usually end with a great result is trying to fix it in the moment. I will tell you, the number one thing that kids tell us that they want is for the adults in their life just to listen to them and not try to fix the problems. And it's so hard because you might be sitting in front of your teenager who is telling you about their horrible relationship and feeling like there is no solution. And you're sitting there like, you know what the solution is? You could break up with them and never talk to them again. And then you wouldn't be having these problems, right? It feels, we have all this experience as adults. And so it feels like this drive to try and fix these problems. And that doesn't usually end up going well. They don't hear it as support. They hear it as criticism. Okay, the second one is matching their energy instead of calming yours. So they're up here, they're escalated, they're fired up. What do you want to do? You want to match that. You want to be like, okay, you want to go? Let's go, right? Doesn't work out so well. So really settling and calming, which is what we're going to talk about today, is the better option. And then this one is very interesting, but assuming they should know better. So Aaliyah talked about the teen brain a little bit, and I wish we had hours to discuss this because I love discussing the teen brain. But an interesting part of it is that development is not happening all at once. It's happening in waves. And so a lot of you guys mentioned that parenting feels like waves or ups and downs. And that is because the physiological components of the brain are taking place in waves. And so you might have a teenager who did an amazing thing the other day, and you were like, wow, we did it. This kid is ready for the world. They are crushing it. And then the next day they make like the dumbest choice ever, and you feel so defeated and frustrated, right? And so sometimes it feels like because we've witnessed them make these great, amazing choices, it feels so defeating to see them make a choice that doesn't match up with all of that. So this is not something to be ashamed of. It's instinct. All of these things are intended to help and support, but they're just not effective. So maybe throwing into the chat, which one do you like just go to? 1, 2, or 3? So I can see there's answers. Number 1. Yeah, fix it. I love fixing problems. It's so hard, especially when you know like what the answer is and you just want to make it happen. Okay, lots of 1s and 2s. They're all tempting, right? Thank you guys. You guys are the best for participating. It's so much more fun. Okay, so we're going to talk Now, about the escalation curve, this is the tool that we keep discussing. We're going to show it to you. We're going to show you it filled out, and then we're going to show you one that is empty that you can fill out. If you want a copy of it, we can email it to you. The last time we did this presentation, it was in person, and everyone was like, can I have 17 of those copies? I want to bring them home and do them with my kids. So it is, if you have a kid that likes to talk about their feelings, or you could model and fill yours out in front of your kid and open that conversation up. So it is pretty fun. The version that we have, you can type into it or you can print it and write into it. So the escalation curve is a map. It shows us how we get from point A, which is our calm baseline. We're going to talk about all these different points, to point B, which is like peak explosion, right? It doesn't just happen all at once. Sometimes it feels like it does, but there's things that happen along the way, and there's interventions that we can do. I always, when I teach this to kids, I always say, a lot of times kids will be like, I've tried all the coping skills and none of them work. And what they're thinking of is they're at the top and they want to go to the bottom. They want to go to baseline. So our coping skills are to help us keep from going up the escalation curve, and or to help us go down a little bit. They're not gonna, and you're not gonna take 5 deep breaths and go from raging out to like the calmest and happiest you've ever been, right?
It's crashing out.
Right. Yeah. My teen
Or cooked.
Yeah.
My students said that they said I'm cooked, and then they were like, I was cooking.
But see, cooking is good and cook is bad.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. He was cooking and now he's cooked.
So here is what the escalation curve looks like. I know this is really tiny. You don't need to, I'm going to explain all of these things to you, so you don't need to like read this little bitty font. But baseline is when you are calm. You are like, for me, this is, I'm watching The Real Housewives, which is confusing because it is grown women yelling at each other, but it's so soothing to me. Maybe I'm like, my house is clean. I've gotten, my emails are cleared out. Like I am just relaxed. My kid is asleep. Everything is good. We are happy. We are calm. We're in our prime. So I want you to take a minute to think of like, what is baseline for you? What does it feel like when you are just calm, content? It doesn't have to be like your happiest moment. I mean, I didn't say I was on vacation, like at an all-inclusive resort, right? It can just be your, like your everyday, maybe it happens every day or once a week. What is your baseline where you are regulated, calm, controlled?
Being with you too.
I was like, maybe we can guess each other's. I know.
So think about what that is for you. And that would be the start. So our goal is to always be at baseline. That's not realistic because triggers happen in this world, right? And triggers can be different for everybody. There's some things that would maybe really make one of them mad that I could deal with. There's things that really make me mad that they would be like, whatever, no big deal, right? And the interesting thing is learning what your teen's baseline is and what yours is, and what your teen's triggers are versus what yours are. And I wonder how often our triggers are caused by our teen, or the teen's triggers are caused by the parent, right? That happens a lot. So we think about going through your day, and there might be things that one day you're, I know you guys can't see where I'm pointing, but maybe you're like where the 2 is, right? You're not quite at baseline, and then something small happens. Somebody spills their coffee on you and you're going into a big presentation, and it just shoots you all the way up to the top, which is another day that would be like no big deal because you were at baseline, you were starting at baseline. So we have to think about when our kids hit that escalation point, or when we hit that escalation point, there could have been things that led up to it. We don't know what their day was like at school. We don't know what they're coming into this with. And so when they're fully escalated, having space and giving reflection for what you don't know about their experience can just give you that beat instead of reacting and jumping in, to calm your nervous system, use your coping skills so that you can approach them in a way. Okay, if they are at the top, peak escalation, that is not the time to have the conversations, right? That's not the time to go in there and say, we need to talk about this messy room. Like, you're so stressed out because this room is messy and that's what's causing you to be stressed. That's not going to be effective. When we are at our peak of our escalation curve, we cannot hear very well. We can't do anything. We are just angry, right? Or we're shut down. And that's another really important thing to talk about, is that everybody's peak looks different. We always talk about internalizers versus externalizers. And you might be an externalizer. You might be somebody where if you are mad, everybody knows you're mad. There is no hiding it. And you might have a team that's an internalizer, that everybody else is like, oh, they're so good at dealing with hard things. You can never tell that they're upset. So they must be really doing well. And then really what's going on internally is some hard stuff that they're holding all inside. I think we're going to talk more about that later. Okay, so the de-escalation part is coming down. That can be a really big source of shame for both parents, caregivers, and teens. If you are, if you have hit your peak, and we've all been there, right? Maybe you've yelled at your kid, you've handled things in a way that you don't want to. That de-escalation time is really a time to take space for yourself. There might be a urge to like go fix it, be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And there will be space for that, but you need to come down. You need to calm and you need to regulate. You need to come back down to baseline and not just jumping in because that can really trigger another escalation. And same with your teen. If you see them like they were really upset and really angry, and then they come to you, has that ever happened to you guys where your teen is super mad and then all of a sudden they're like in the same room as you, like kind of scooting closer to you on the couch? You're like, wait, you just yelled at me 5 minutes ago. How are you here now wanting my attention? Giving them that proximity, being close by, but not diving into a discussion right away. They need a moment to come back down to baseline so that you can have the most healthy conversation. And then returning to baseline, that could be a time. It might be the next day. We got to address those peaks. We can't just let them go. But once everyone is calm, those are the times to have the discussions. So we're going to show you the fillable one. If you want to what is this called? Like you take a picture?
QR code.
Yes. No, but like what's it called? Like scan that?
Yeah,
Like
scan a QR code.
scan the QR code. We just have a super brief Google form that you can fill out, and this will give us your email and we can send you. We don't want to like bombard you guys, but it'll give you our email, and then it'll also sign you up for our free resources that come through our newsletter. And we will send you the escalation curve and we'll make sure that you get those resources and anything else from the research and anything else that you might want. So I'm going to show you guys what this fillable one looks like. It is right over here. And we're going to do it together. Okay. I think I have to stop sharing and then reshare. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Sorry for the tech issue. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go through one. If anybody wants to share a situation, give us an example. You don't have to, we can make one up, but if you want to throw one in the chat of like this, asking for a friend, this is a common situation that happens with me and my teen of something that they blow up around.
And if not, we have many examples
we are
that we
happy
can
to give one.
Yeah.
But if it would be helpful, feel free to throw one in. I'll give you guys a couple seconds. A link instead of a QR code. Yeah, I'm sure we can. We'll figure that out. You saw my tech skills, so you know they're promising. Okay, we'll just make one up. So let's say that we're going to start with the peak actually. So let's say that we're going to do it for the parent. Okay, you can print this out or type into it and do it with your kid and be like, hey, I went to this fun talk with these cool, really amazing women. And they recommended that we fill this out together because I want to know more about your experience and what your peak looks like. So
We do, we do have a common blow up in the chat that just got put in if you're
Sure.
interested. Okay. Is about video games and spending as much time as he wants on video games versus my limits as a parent.
Love
Thank
it.
you.
Do you want me to?
Thank you, Stephanie.
Sure. Okay. So
Thanks,
the
guys.
peak might look like, and I don't know what happens in your household, obviously. But the peak might look like, I'm gonna make it dramatic just for fun. Okay. The peak might look like, I don't care what you say. I'm gonna play my video games, and if you don't let me, I'm gonna go over to my friend's house because their parents have no rules, and I can play whatever video games I want. Sorry.
I can't use that thing.
So it might look like your rules don't matter for me. I can do whatever I want. And the feeling for the parent might be, I bought you that video game console. Like, how dare you say this to me? You have no right. I pay for the internet in this house. It might look like I just want to scream at you. I want to take it away. I want to remove everything. I want to make it so that you never play a video game ever again. That would be the like escalation, right? Huge blowout fight. Kid leaves and goes to their friend's house. Parent takes the I don't know what's cool, Xbox, and smashes it in the backyard, like huge blowout fight. This also might look like we just yell at each other. Oh, sorry. I talked a lot. This might just look like we just yell at each other and then everybody moves on. So every peak is different, but just to give you examples. Okay, the trigger. So we are doing the parent's escalation curve. So the parent might be thinking maybe they had a situation with their boss that morning where the boss gave them feedback around something. They were so excited about this presentation, and the feedback was like, it was not good. Um, the washing machine broke. Has anybody's washing machine ever broke? That's like an absolute nightmare
A
because
dishwasher, and then you have to wash all the dirty dishes.
didn't your dishwasher break before you went out of town one time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's I was triggered.
Right. So it could be anything from like your own personal experiences to minor daily inconveniences. Maybe it is Thursday night and you are looking forward to something. You're having a wine night with your friends that night and they all canceled. And so you don't have that escape. And now you have to yell at your kid about video games. So all of these things throughout the day are just moving you up the escalation curve. Baseline. I'm going to make up a baseline for you, video game person. So your baseline is that you are, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
You
Something that I am not familiar with.
You have just spent the morning.
There we go.
You have just spent the morning gardening. It looks beautiful. There's no weeds. You got sunshine. Oh, you're listening to a podcast, maybe our podcast, Your Teen Mag with Cultivating Roots. You had a delicious
coffee and a scone.
Sure.
Maybe I'm describing my own.
A coffee and a scone. Like life is just good. You're feeling calm. You're feeling regulated. Okay.
I'm going to jump in with a question because a couple have come in the chat that I think are relevant in this moment,
Thank
having
you.
to do with the triggers, which is that can the triggers themselves be related to the issue, such as we've had the same fight over and over,
Yes.
or I have anxieties and concerns over specifically video games.
So, you know how one of the pitfalls that Caitlin discussed was like, you should know better. Like I've told you, I've told you this before. And that, that is a trigger, right? Like we've had this conversation, you know what the boundaries are, you know what the rules are. Why are you purposefully doing this to make my life miserable? Yes.
And please jump in like you are, because we really
like
appreciate
engagement.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. The triggers, you could have had a great day. Maybe you were gardening all day and you were so excited to hang out as a family and you guys had plans. And then your kid was like, you know what I want to do? I want to go kill zombies on the internet. And you're like, what? We had this amazing, I have tickets to go to some fun show. And your kid's like, I don't want to go see that. I don't care about that. And they just want to do something boring, like play video games instead. And it just feels so frustrating because you have put in this time and energy and effort to have a great family bonding activity.
And you've talked about it 1,000,000 times.
And they're like, you never told me the plan. So yes, the triggers, thank you for bringing that up, can absolutely have to do with it. Was there more questions, Jackie, or just, okay, cool. Okay, so we're gonna go to de-escalation. So the blow up has happened. Kid left. They went to their friend's house.
You just smashed.
You destroyed their video game console. Or, more realistic, you're just like, now our night is ruined. We were gonna have this fun activity. They've blown me off. They've left the house. You might be feeling some shame, some regret, frustration, and anger. You might be like, what can I possibly do to get this kid to want to spend time with our family instead of go into the cocoon of the video game? And you might be just feeling like, why do I even try? I spent my time, my energy, my finances to have us do a fun activity together. And it doesn't, no matter what I do, it's not working, right? And the return to baseline might be something along the lines of the kid comes home from their friend's house. They're calmer, you're calmer, and you guys have a discussion about your family values. And this is like, obviously, what to do after is a whole nother conversation that we could have hours of discussions on the before, during, after. But what we really want to focus on is how you avoid that peak for yourself, right? We don't have control of our kids avoiding that peak. We can have discussions with them around this. We can use this tool with them. But if we can avoid those peaks, those really challenging escalations, or we can have repair after them, then the odds of them happening over and over again and really rupturing that relationship are much less. And so there is no cure-all, like do this and you'll never have escalations with your kids. But if you can keep your body regulated and avoid those peak experiences, then you don't have to do as much of the cleanup work, right? And so we're going to talk more about strategies and skills that you can have so that it feels easier. But we just wanted to show you this little tool because sometimes it just helps to put it on paper. Okay, I'm going to stop and go back to are there any questions? Yep, okay, cool. Thank you guys for your participation. Okay, so we're gonna try and we will get you guys a link to this. Okay, so we talked through all this part. Sometimes also escalation, we talked about internal versus external, and then we also talked about that it could just be physical, right? Like your escalation might be internal, but you have that racing heart, that anxiety, that stress. Is this going to happen? And maybe when you're nearing that peak, it's like, oh my God, are we going to have the same fight that we've had?
It's like the
20
anticipation
times?
almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I also think this is important. We talked about this too, but at that peak, the brain is offline, yours and theirs, right? No
learning
can
take place
learning
during that time.
The teacher, she okay, yeah.
I think.
Okay, so just yeah, as a reminder, what Caitlin just said, when you are in that state where you are not regulated, your brain is not online. There's no way to have any kind of productive conversation, even if you're regulated and your child is dysregulated. So one of you are regulated, it's still not a good time to discuss what's going on and to try to repair or make progress. So just something to think about. How you see your escalation curve comparing to your teens. Do you think any of the elements of your escalation curve overlap? Like maybe you and your teen have similar triggers, and that's something that you can communicate about together, and where maybe they look different, because having an understanding of how you respond to things and how your teen responds to things is going to allow you to be better prepared to navigate those, potential peaks when they come up. Okay, so one of the tools that we really like to use for regulation is learning how to pause the interaction without escalating it. So, okay, so imagine this. So you and your teen, we're going to use the messy room argument again. This is an argument that happens very often in my house. So you and your teen are arguing about their messy room, and your teen says, like, why are you always on my case about clean my room? Like, I'll do it when I want to do it.
Who's you talking about?
I think somebody just accidentally
okay.
unmuted.
Okay. And so like your instinctive response might be to say, like, don't talk to me like that, or because you need me to keep you on track. And the challenge is when your emotions are already high like that, trying to correct your teen's behavior or give them feedback in that moment, it often just adds fuel to the fire instead of having them do what you want them to do or leading to some kind of productive conversation. So a regulating response might sound something like, and you would say it, in your own words or in whatever way felt natural to you. Let's talk when we've both cooled off, or why don't we take a break from this conversation and we can check back in 15 or 20 minutes and see if we're both in a place where we can talk about, how to better communicate about cleaning your room. So having that moment to pause allows you to think before you react to think before you react to your teen and to what their behavior is. And so sometimes when we talk about this, parents or caregivers feel like, oh, well, if I'm not, correcting their behavior in the moment, am I just letting them get away with speaking to me in a disrespectful tone? Or like, am I letting them get away with not taking care of the responsibilities that I have for them? And that is not what this is at all. We feel very strongly that it's important as parents and guardians that you have structure and boundaries
Hold on
for
a second.
structure boundaries for your tweens and teens, but you can hold the boundary and you can still choose to not address the situation in the heat of the moment when you and your teen aren't regulated. And then also just really wanting to again normalize this kind of instinctual response because we're all human and it's understandable to get frustrated and irritated by these kinds of things that come up. And so, if you are going to practice these things and then you say or do something that, escalates the situation, it's okay. You can repair, you can try again.
Take another pause.
Take another pause. Yeah. And starting to really become aware of like what are those early signs that you yourself are starting to escalate or your teen is starting to escalate so you can kind of stop before you get to the peak.
I have one other thing too that I want to add to this is we want to also think about what our teen, like what time of the day we're going to address something like this.
Great point, Hannah.
Thanks. So like if you are, your teen comes home after like practice from a sport, or maybe they failed a test or something like that, like they might also just be not in the right frame of mind to even be open to having this. So thinking about what maybe your teen has been through before they get home or whatnot can also help, I think, having those hard conversations. Just wanted to add that.
Absolutely. Okay, so one thing that we just want you guys to consider is what are those signs that you're starting? So we talk about triggers, but then also what are the physical signs? What do you feel in your body when you're starting to escalate? Do you like have a racing heart? Do you get sweaty palms?
I get weird.
Do you
your chest starts to feel tighter?
Yeah. Are you
all your fists up like
fight or flight?
Caitlin's son?
Yeah, my baby is always like this. And so just noticing what those are in your physical body can sometimes be the indicator that helps us be like, ooh, I need to take a step back from this right now. And I really like what Aaliyah was saying around the boundaries. Like we are not at all saying, just let it go, don't talk about it, right? We're just saying, knowing that in those heat of the moment times, that's not the right time to talk about it. And the strategies for how to talk about it is a whole nother training. This is all about calming your own body so that you can approach and lend your nervous system. Their nervous system is still developing, and we are modeling a calm co-regulation or calm regulated nervous system that you can provide for your teen helps them learn how to do it for themselves. It's all mirror neurons. It's how their brain is able to be like, okay, this is what I need to do to get through these hard moments. Okay, we're gonna do a little strategy together. We picked this one because I will say the teens love this. It is one of my favorites to teach to teenagers, so it's something that you can do with your teens. It helps because they can do it at home. They can do it at school. You can do it at school and nobody even knows you're doing it, or you can do it at home and do a full body one where it takes you 20 minutes. It can be a 2-second thing. It can not 2 seconds. It can be a 30-second thing or a 30-minute thing.
It's also a great strategy if you're having a hard time falling asleep.
Absolutely. So it's called progressive muscle relaxation. There are a million videos. You could even do it as a fun activity with your teen. If your teen has like TikTok or likes to watch YouTube videos, you could say, let's find one together and do it together. So we're gonna model it for you guys. If you want to participate, that would be great because it just really shows you how it physically calms your nervous system. So I want everybody to take their hands out like this, like little baby Nolan, my baby. Squeeze them really tight. And I want you to keep them squeezed. We're going to take 3 breaths together. So we're going to inhale, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Feel those nails dig into your palm of your hand. If you have long nails, sorry about this. Keep them squeezed. Press that thumb into your fingers as you exhale. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Another breath in. And exhale. And the final breath, I want it to be your tightest squeeze. Show me your muscles. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And on the exhale, I want you to relax it. Put your hands in your lap. Uncoil your fingers. Let the blood flow back to your fingertips. And you can just feel kind of a calming presence throughout your body. Now, you can do this head to toe. You can start with your face. You can do your upper body. You can do your midsection. You can do your legs. You can space it out however you want. Like I said, there's tons of videos walking you through it. And a kid can do this at school. They can do it under their desks and nobody even knows. So if they're feeling their heart race, they're nervous about a test, they're doing a Socratic seminar. The teens hate Allegra, am I right? Teens hate a Socratic seminar. They're very stressful for that. If they're nervous about public speaking, that's just a quick little strategy that helps to calm the nervous system. We have on our website, I'll just show you guys, we have a bunch of blogs and we've been featured in different articles. And this one shows it talks about emotional regulation and it talks about 3 different strategies that teens have told us that they really like doing and how to practice them at home and at school. There's a ton of different blogs on here. And we're really interactive with parents. All of these resources are free, the features, the blogs, and our podcast. And we really want, you guys can see this, right? Yeah, okay. We really want parents to feel like they have support with us. And so if there is a topic that you don't see featured in one of our blogs that you wish somebody talked about, we tried to write things that we got direct feedback from parents. Like one time I was doing this presentation on environmental causes in Petaluma. And one of the participants was saying, there's nothing out there for how to talk to my kid about like natural disasters and their climate change, their anxiety about this. And so we did a whole blog post about how to talk to your kid if they have climate anxiety, which is so real, especially in areas where there's been a lot of fires. And so we want parents to feel like they can reach out to us, say, this is what we need help with, and that we will respond in a way that feels effective and gives you actual strategies. So we can't go into like every possible strategy that we have, but that's all available for you on our website. And if you have something that you need that you don't see featured, we're very easily accessible. And so we have our Instagram, our podcasts, our blogs and features, all of that is available, or you can just go to Cultivating Roots and see it all on there if you don't want to scan our QR codes. Steal your slide here?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were asked this question, and it's one that we keep thinking about. And the question is, what's the most important role a parent has for their child? And that question we each answered it in different ways. And my answer has kind of evolved as I continue to think about it and parent my own children. This isn't something that you need to put in the chat, but if you want to, you can.
And there's no right or wrong answer.
Totally.
But
yeah. And actually his answer was to be able to co-regulation with your kids. And so that's why we feel like this topic is so valuable and so important.
I want to hear from Allegra and just see if this resonated with you all. If you feel like you get to have conversations about like coping skills. I work at a middle school, and the beginning of this year did like all the 7th graders that were coming into the middle school, we did like a little wellness check-in, and we talked about coping skills and what they are, and I was shocked. I would say like a strong 80% of them had never even heard the term coping skill. So I want to hear a student speaker share, like, is this something that is talked about? Is this something you feel like you talk about with your friends, you could talk about with your parents?
Yeah, I mean, I think now it's kind of been like there's been more emphasis on helping kids like receive and learn coping skills because, with social media and stuff, a lot of kids are more anxious than they were before. And so like we have things like a TAM, and I think most of the other at least Marin County public high schools have like the wellness center is what it's called. And you like go there, there's like tea and like there are like stress balls, and there's like a wellness counselor that can help if you're feeling like anxious or like if you have stuff to talk about. And they say like I'm sure that they let everyone know who comes in there about like coping skills, what to do, like how to relax and like manage stress or anxiety or frustration. But I mean, I always think it's obviously still a good thing to keep talking about because I'm sure there are many kids who haven't heard about it.
Yeah, for sure. And then how about escalation curve? Like, do you feel that a lot of triggers from the kids that you're around are like school-based, home-based, a combination of them? What do you feel like are the things that are causing a lot of stress to teens today?
Yeah, so I definitely thought that that escalation curve that you showed and talked about was super relevant to like my own, family experience and also what I see at school and stuff. I think recently, as a junior, I'm involved in athletics and stuff. And one of the most prevalent things with my friends is when um, there's like this pressure to, like commit to a school and recruiting, and there's all like I'm not going through that process, but a couple of my friends are, and like their parents put a lot of pressure on them to, reach out to coaches all the time, make highlight reels, stuff like that. And that really gets to them. And that's like one of their major triggers. Like I know some of my friends are talking about like, after I come home from a long school day, I've had tests, junior year or whatever year you are. I mean, school is stressful. And then their parents come and be like, oh, well, have you done this? Like, have you reached out to that coach? And they're just kind of like, I can't deal with this like the first thing I walk through the door, you know what I mean? And so I feel like um as a kid giving, advice to caregivers, like I would say that one of the most important things to not, trigger a teen is like just give them, especially like after a long day, like some time to just like reset and go back to their baseline because um I just feel like it's so important. Like I feel like I feel this myself and I know a lot of my friends feel.
Yeah, it reminds me of like if we're looking at the curve, a teenager comes home and they're already triggered, they're already here. And that conversation could be like the thing that pushes them to the peak, or a support of like, hey, I hope you had a good day. If you want to talk about it all, I'm here. Like,
I mean, and if you have that common language, right? If you and your parent or caregiver have talked about the escalation curve and you get home after a long day, your parent or caregiver could be like, oh, like, are you at your baseline? Or let me know when you're at your baseline and we
mhm,
can talk about your day so that you have that common language and understanding of what that is and what that looks like.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think Allegra, you're getting lots of thank yous. I think what that was a real like empathy check for parents because we see the peak of the curve as what the teen's doing, like the video
Yes.
games or the phone or what we don't want them doing. And you were able to flip that script for something that your parents, that other, not yours, but other parents might do that might not be received as connection and love. Um, and so that was a real, I think, empathy moment for the rest of us. Like, oh, the teens are seeing this in us too, right? And really helpful. So thank you.
I wanted, sorry if it's okay for me to ask you another question, but I just
Of
love the
course.
perspective. I wanted to know what these common parenting pitfalls, if any of those are frustrating to you and your friends, like that fixing it, if there's an energy from an adult, and it doesn't have to be parents, right? It could be any adults in your life. Do any of these come up for you?
Yeah, so again, like I said before about like come home from a long day, school, um whatever sport you're doing, and then there's immediately like the let's talk. Like, I mean, even like what you said before, like a comforting, like, how's your day? Like, sometimes though, like after a long day, I'm just like, don't talk to me. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, I'm just kind of
Yeah.
like, I need to be alone. I need to just like reset. And sometimes it's like, if I come home from school and I may have homework to do. I may have other things I have to do on my to-do list, and I know about that. But
Yeah.
in the instance where I get home, I'm just like, I just need to chill for a second. And maybe that's, scrolling on Instagram for 20 minutes or reading a book or just having a snack, like something that will bring me or your child down to the baseline without like that push of like, what are you supposed to be doing now? Or what haven't you done yet? And like there's always things, I feel like for me, especially like junior year, like there are always things on my to-do list. I always have more things to be doing. But sometimes, like I can't do everything in that moment, and I just need a second to regroup. So I think that's a pitfall, like the to-do list nagging, like right after. I mean, obviously, if it's a thing like I'm not getting any work done, then
Yeah.
reminders are necessary. But yeah, and then yeah, like I said, for athletics, like recruiting and performance badgering, like especially right after a game, if you have a child who's in sports, and then it's like right after the game, they're like, oh, well, you could have done this better, or you didn't complete that pass, and next game you have to be more physical, or like something like that. Like obviously, improvement is a big thing if they want to go and keep going to the next level, but maybe like right after that game, save the commentary for a little later.
Did you
Yeah, so
come
I
up
would say those are
with
some common
performance
pitfalls.
I
badgering?
know. I was like,
I've never heard that term before,
I love it.
performance badgering, but that is so like I know exactly what you're talking about with that. Did you make that up or is that on TikTok?
Yeah, I didn't even realize I like coined a term there. I was just kind of
It's gonna be new slang. We're gonna make it happen. It's so descriptive, right? Because it's like it can't just be enough that you exist. It has to be like, how are you achieving? How are you?
And how can you be better?
So I really
yeah,
like that term. Good job.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
sharing.
And also
of
when you're
course.
sharing, we often talk about shifting from a manager to a consultant role. And this is also something that was talked about in that New York Times article about their suggestions for having a more collaborative relationship with your teen that can lead to healthy dynamics as they're an adult. And so what everything that you were talking about that is frustrating and triggering is those managerial parenting styles,
Yeah.
right? Like, did you get this
Actually,
done? To-do list? Yeah, go ahead.
can I add there? I recently saw an Instagram video that made me laugh, and it was a clip, it was like a meme, and it was like, as a daughter, like, I need you to tell me what to do, but I also need you to step back and tell me what to do, like when I want you to tell me, and just like, but also just like take a back seat. And it's like, obviously, there's not going to be any, um, specific times. Like, it's hard to recognize when they need, your child wants guidance or help from you, and when your
One thing,
child just wants you to step back.
yeah,
So, I mean, honestly, like sometimes it's just good to ask, like, do you want me to help you with this? Like,
yeah, you took
or,
the words out of my
like, do you need help filling this out or this form out? Or
mouth.
do you want me to make your breakfast in the morning if that will help you out? Sometimes, I'm just going to be like, no, like, I want to do it by myself. And then other times it's like, yeah, actually. And like, teens, like, they don't like, we don't want to ask for help. But I mean, obviously, you guys can't just like, parents, I mean, not you guys, but parents and caregivers can't just pick up on every subtle cue that we throw out there. But sometimes just asking is the best way to
One thing
find
that
out.
we like to talk about is you can say like I'm here whenever you are ready. Like I'll be here and you can come to me whenever that is. And I feel like that's a nice open way for parents to keep that line of communication open, but without being like too overbearing.
And that's exactly what you were talking, like being a
Yeah.
consultant over being a manager is that, right? Like I'm here, I'm present and available, but I'm not, and I'm here to guide you, but I'm not here to manage you. And there's a really big difference between those two. And it's exactly like that Instagram reel. Like sometimes I need your help, but sometimes I need you to know that you need to step back and not take care of everything. But then I freak out because it feels like I'm doing it on my own. And so really having that open communication and as parents, I think you really probably validated a lot of parents with that because it's like sometimes they want me to help them, and then sometimes they tell me I'm being too much, and then kind of like I hate you, don't leave me dynamic, right? And so, one of the things that we also love to say is it's not personal. And it's really hard to not take it personal when somebody says, I hate you, but don't leave me. And but it's not because the teen experience is complicated and it's okay to set a boundary and say, you know what, I'm not going to be talked to. It's actually good to set a boundary. If your teen is yelling at you, cursing at you, you need to say, I will not be spoken to like that because they need that modeling that that's not okay. But then it needs to be, I'm going to go in the other room and take some space from you. It can't be, you are a terrible kid who like fighting and you don't trust me, you don't love me, you don't like it can't escalate into that, right? But it needs to be, this is not okay. This is inappropriate behavior. And I'm going to take space from you.
Were
Are
there
you
other?
ready for
Yeah.
some other questions? Allegra,
Yeah.
thank
Any
you so
response?
much.
I'm going to take
So this might be one for, I'm going to guess this might be a really good question for Hannah. In the chat, one of our parents noted that when you're raising a neurodivergent teen, it always seems like they're at a peak and there's never a good time to talk.
Yeah.
So if you want to comment, there wasn't necessarily a question there, but if you want to comment on that comment, and any thoughts you have on that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think that that is definitely a valid, especially if your kid is the extroverted kind where there's like big emotions. I think that that can be really difficult. But I
Wait,
think
not extroverted, an
sorry,
external.
externalizers.
Andy might also be extroverted.
Sorry. So yeah, that can be really difficult to find those moments, but maybe finding a time or an activity that they enjoy, and then you can have that conversation. So it's not so like formal. Like we like to say, if you have like a pet, you could go for a walk and maybe have a conversation, or in the car is sometimes a good idea. So finding maybe an activity can kind of alleviate some of that pressure.
Yeah, we had so on our podcast we've actually had two back-to-back experts on working with neurodivergent kids, and one of the things that they recommended was really taking whatever their interest is and adapting conversations to that. So and a lot of times having difficult conversations that don't require eye contact can be really helpful. So that's why in the car can be helpful, going for a walk together. You guys, Pokemon cards are cool again. So if you have a tween, or maybe if you have a teenager, I don't know, Pokemon cards are all the rage, I guess. There's like lines out the door for them. But doing something that is their interest and then bringing those conversations in like a very calm, regulated way when you need to talk about tough stuff.
I think also asking your kid, like, what is
What do you
asking,
need?
yeah, like getting curious about what they need in that moment too.
And sometimes too, I think for young people who or anybody who's neurodivergent, like having those intense conversations about emotions can feel overwhelming, which can then shut you down. And so instead of jumping in with the emotion and feeling piece, focusing on what's concrete and what's actually happening and what needs to happen moving forward instead of like kind of getting into the more emotional side of things.
Thank you so much. There was another interesting question comment wondering, I guess if you've seen any gendered patterns around differences between the ways moms and dads communicate or their styles or what the escalation curve might look like for them. Do we see any gender differences in parenting around this?
Yeah, I mean, it obviously depends. It's not a one size fits all, but I do think um, a lot of high achieve in my private practice, I specialize and work with a lot of like perfectionistic teen girls. And that can be a lot of internalizers. And so people don't necessarily know that something is wrong, but they're struggling with really deep, challenging things. And one thing that was said to me by a teenage girl who was engaging in some really maladaptive coping skills, some not healthy stuff. She said, I want my mom to notice, but I don't want her to know. And I think that was such a powerful statement of like, if you have a kid where you are like, God, they're doing so well, they have straight A's, or I always say if a kid is telling me that every single thing that they are doing is to help them get into a good college, that's always a red flag to me, right? If you have a kid who's like hyper focused on, or like Lego saying a kid who wants to go D1 in college and they're training all the time, really making sure that you're checking in and noticing that they don't need to be constantly achieving, and that your love and appreciation for them, they need to hear it directly. It cannot just be like, oh, they know that I love them, but it cannot be that every single praise is attached to success and achievement. That can be a really big thing for kids, and hearing that their internal value is based on what they can produce. And it can be a lot of pressure, and you might not even see, like they might never explode.
I would.
Did that answer the question? I thought the question was about the parents.
Well, I don't know if this answers the question, but so as a school counselor, I have over 300 students on my caseload, and this is kind of like conforming to societal norms about gendered roles. But I would say that 90% of my communication is with my student's mom and not my student's dad. And so what that tells me is that there is a lot more. No, but I think that was
That was
really
very valid.
valuable
Yeah,
too.
I just didn't know if it answered.
But what that tells me is that there is a lot more communication and dynamics that are occurring between my student and their mom or maternal figure than that student and their dad. And again, like this is a generalization, but day in and day out, like I'm talking much more to mothers than to fathers.
Well, yeah, actually, I was the one who asked the question,
Oh.
Susan Ritter. And no, I just was looking on the call. I see all women. My husband happens to be here. Ha. But but yeah, so I just thought, okay, who's paying attention to this stuff? Like, I mean, if there's no dads on the call, that's
Right.
actually more my comment.
That's such a good observation.
Yes.
And even I find myself falling into that trap when I go to contact a parent. I just naturally go to contact the mom first, and I have to like check myself. And I'm
Me
like,
too. I'm a school nurse and I have the same thing. Like, why would I always call? And sometimes
right.
moms are upset, like, call my husband, right? So, yeah, I try to think about that too and be fair.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She would say, I
Yeah,
want to 50% of the time call my husband.
at least.
But yeah, I think that, thank you for correcting. I misunderstood the question.
It's funny because normally I'm the one who wouldn't understand the question.
Yeah. But I guess I also was thinking about that escalation curve, and because we have different styles too. And
Exactly.
he's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's what you've been telling me.
but it's good to know with your partner, right? Or your co-parent, because one of you might be really good at handling certain kinds of situations with your kid, and like the other one might just have to step out and not get involved because they get so triggered by that situation that it just doesn't work out. And it's okay to say, like, this kind of conversation or this kind of argument is not for me. I am really great at doing other things or supporting in other ways. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
We had a full conversation about this at another training with a different school district about, and the parent that was there was saying, I have, there was one dad, but they were saying, like, I have a really different escalation curve than my partner, and it's really frustrating because I can see like my partner's very in line with my kid, and so they trigger each other because they're so similar, and I'm able to like step back and see it differently, but then it's so hard to, I don't want to interfere. I don't want to, like, y'all know what triangulation means, right? There's three people involved, and if two people partner up, then the third person feels left out of everything. And so parents want to be a team and a united front, but if they're witnessing something that's not healthy, it can be really difficult to interfere with that. So this can be an activity that you all do as a family, so everybody knows, like, this is what my triggers are. This is what it looks like when I'm escalating. And you might learn a lot about
And
each
then,
other.
yeah, and then no matter what, if you have that common language like we've talked about, then you can use that together. So that's kind of
Allegra, do you have a thought?
Yeah, when you were talking about the escalation before, I thought of like for me, what I've seen, like a lot of teens, like in high school, like I've always been kind of more like parents would say, like, oh, like I'm persistent and I like to debate, but I mean, it basically just means like I fought back with what they were telling me. So I always kind of like sometimes I fall into this trap of like me and my parents have a disagreement. It's like, well, obviously I'm thinking I'm right. And then I'm thinking like I have to win this conversation. Like I need to prove them that they're wrong. And like my dad will say something and then like my immediate response is like, no, you're wrong. Like, and it's not even something that like it's just kind of like something that happens in my mind. And so sometimes I have to be like, okay, like let's be more like omniscient point of view and let's take both opinions in. But I mean, it's really hard for a lot of teens, and I just think that as a parent it would be helpful to like while your teen is trying to win the conversation. Like, I've thought about this. Like, I feel like a really good, for me, like a de-escalating method would be not forcing your teen to try and see your side, but like asking the teen questions that maybe like take them away from just their point of view or help them see more your point of view. Like, if I'm insisting on, I want to play video games and I don't want any bedtime, I just want to play all night. And then you're thinking like, oh, so, how do you think you're going to get up for school in the morning? Or are you going to be performing your best when you're really tired? Or what about, with sports, like, are you going to be able to put as much as you can on the field if you're tired from playing video games last night? And just kind of like maybe like reasoning through their argument, I think, especially, but obviously this is not like, as they're saying, like in peak, like if you're in peak and like there's maybe no reasoning. But I just thought that was just something I thought about today thinking about this conversation.
Yeah, I really like that. I think it's about like Hannah's catchphrase is get curious. It's about like getting curious and helping. It sounds like what you want is helping somebody to help you reason through it so that you can make that choice, right? Like instead of being like, get off the video games because you're going to be exhausted tomorrow, asking questions, asking those open-ended questions and helping you come to that realization on your own is a lot more
Yeah.
effective than just
Yeah,
telling
exactly.
you to do. And that's
Mhm.
consultancy versus management, right?
You're an amazing
Yeah.
team. I know.
Thanks.
So we've sort of naturally already woven our way into Q&A, but I do want to invite anybody to please just come off of mute and ask a question if you have one. Feel free to put it in the chat as well, if that's available. Someone's asking were the presentations about parenting neurodivergent teens recorded, and if so,
Yeah.
are they available?
Yeah, so they're the last two episodes. So if you go to our website and go under podcasts, so there's a couple that we were featured on, but the first one, we host Your Teen Magazine. If anybody knows them, they used to be a print magazine, and we host their in collaboration, we host their weekly podcast. And so and we accept parent questions and we change your location and your name so that you remain anonymous. So you can fill out questions on our contact form. You can DM us on Instagram. And we get a lot of really, really good questions. And then sometimes we have guests come on that are specialists. And so we've had a guy named Dr. Matt, who is
It's a really good episode.
And then we also had Sean McCormick, who's local and is
An executive
functioning coach. And so those are the last two episodes. So those are both available. And
They're
then
on Spotify and Apple if you search Your Teen Mag, and also on our website.
Thanks, Amanda.
And Amanda, thank you, Amanda. Just put the link into the chat for your podcast.
And then I was able to put the Google Doc link in if you want us to send you the fillable PDFs.
The Dr. Matt episode, though, has some amazing conversations about supporting our neurodivergent students.
And he works with teens and families directly, and then he's also a speaker, like nationwide speaker. And
He's great.
He's awesome.
Do you have any more slides, or do we want to take those down?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
sure.
yeah, we can take those
Just
down.
so we can see if there's any questions or any hands. Or, okay, awesome. And we might have already asked them all quite naturally, but if there are other questions, please feel free to just go ahead and unmute to ask those. This is great.
Find that article too.
While we wait for questions.
Oh, Amanda has one.
Oh, never mind.
I was just gonna say it's less of like a question and more of an observation, and I'm like curious your take on it. I probably a lot of us are doing this or like trying to have conversations in this way, and like I feel like the way my son comes back at me is very funny. He gives me back the things I say to him. So if he sees me get like triggered about something, he'll be like, "What's coming up for you, bud?" Or like he hits me with that type of language, and I'm always like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, uh, even though they're joking with us, like I'm just wondering, like even if they're making fun of it, like it's getting through, right? It's there.
100%. Sometimes that
I think if they're making fun of it, that's another level of understanding.
Yeah, I don't. And sometimes I'm just like, am I am I getting this right? Like, as if it's like meaningless or pointless to be like talking to him like that. But I'm like, I don't know if
Well,
anybody else is
my
experiencing that.
nephew, who is 13, will tell if my sister's ever like, "What do you think about that?" or like asks a getting curious question. He's like, "You sound like Auntie Kate." Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, let's think. Like, I'm so curious your opinion about that. And so, he's always kind of making fun of my therapist-based questions about, how do you feel? Tell me what your thoughts are on that. And I think it's using humor to like
Connect.
yeah,
And to share an experience and personal connection. I'm actually teaching a unit all about humor right now. So
Are you on?
yeah,
Oh, there you go.
we're reading funny in Farsi. So yeah.
Also, somebody had asked a while back at the very beginning for that article from the New York Times, so I just linked it. So it's on there if anybody needs it.
That's wonderful. Allegra, you were coming off of mute for a moment, I think. Did you have something to share?
Oh, yeah. So, when you guys were making um the sorry,
Escalator.
the escalation graph diagram, and you were saying like, you know, the peak or like what the parent was feeling afterwards was like, oh, my plans got ruined because they wanted to do something else. Like, oh, this is so annoying. Like, um, I thought we were gonna have a great day, all planned out. And I think in my experience, I personally like am a big planner, and I like the things to go like how I want them to go and how I planned it out. But I think it's really important. I really like when my parents, like, if we're going to, if we're going on a vacation or just like, um, planning out our Sunday or Saturday or whatever, I like to be included in those planning sessions and like the compromises of like, well, we have to do this or the parents want to do that, but I also would like time to do this, or while we're in San Francisco, getting my doctor's shots or etc., whatever we're doing. Like, can we also check out Brandy Melville so I can do some shopping or like something like that? So just kind of like finding the compromises in the plan so that maybe, I don't have my ideal shopping day with, coffee and dinner after, but
This sounds
the
amazing.
Yeah, we're
parent,
coming. We're coming to
yeah,
your
but
family day.
but
We're
the
all coming.
parent but the parent also gets the stuff that they want to do and the stuff that needs done, whilst the child and the teen also finds like something to look forward to in that day. So I think that's a really um, helpful for everyone strategy when, yeah, you want to make a plan.
I love that. And I think the inclusion of teenagers sometimes doesn't happen. Like I've had so many kids tell me my parent planned this incredible vacation and I feel so bad because I don't really want to go. I just want to be home with my friends and they're going to say that I'm spoiled. And if I like complain at all the entire time, I'm going to get told like, you have no idea how lucky you are to get this experience. You're like,
Yes,
"Nope."
yes,
And so
that
I
hits
think
close to.
getting like teen buy-in can really just you can all have a better experience and the intention from the caregiver can be the purest best thing, right? It can be so amazing, but if we don't have teen buy-in, then the odds of it going successfully are substantially lower than if the teenager was part of the plan.
Well, and it also makes you feel like you're a valued member of the family, like you can contribute and that you have a place and a role within that family system and dynamic, and you belong, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And your schedule and interest
Matter.
are just as important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're so wise.
So
I I know, right? I'm
so
spinning on
impressed.
some of what you've said as well, Allegra. Thank you. I'm gonna give it one more moment to see if we have any other questions coming up for people. This has been such a rich evening. Um, Someone's commented, what I'm amazed by is that each child awakens different triggers. So I'm
Mhm.
often caught off guard and bummed
Yeah.
when something that used to work with one
Oh gosh, it's
doesn't work with the other. Whoosh.
you feel like you've got it all nailed down, and then your other kid is like, no, no, that's not going to work for me.
And that's sometimes when, like, where the other parent can come in and you can kind of figure out, like, maybe I communicate. Well, so Hannah and I are actually sisters, and there were things like growing up where our with our parents where, one of them could communicate better with one of us on something and the other one could communicate better with the other one on something. So kind of figuring out like where's your sweet spot with each kid and each parent.
I also saw a comment earlier from a single parent, and this is true for single parents and um, for partnered parents. But one of the things that I value so much is our community. Like we are close friends, and we have a great friend group. And there have been times that our kids are different ages, and there have been times that we've been at each other's houses where somebody's like, I cannot deal with this. Like I have to tap out.
Yeah.
And then an auntie gets to come in and help out too. So really recognizing the other adults that are in your child's life that they value and that they
And fostering those relationships.
yeah, and knowing that like it's okay if you're not the one that they come to for everything. And those could be coaches, teachers, counselors, therapists, aunts, uncles, friends of the family, I'm like very, very close with the kids that I nannied when I was in grad school, and they're in their very late teens now. But really using your resources and depending on other people and
And
not,
allowing it. It's okay.
yeah, because it can be so hard to ask for that support and say, this is like, I am not getting through to them on this. I need somebody else to come in and have those conversations.
That's amazing. Thank you. I think that's a really solid point for us to start to close on. I think you're leaving us all with so much to think about as we walk away. I have to thank you so much for those of us that want to find Cultivating Roots more and connect more with their resources. Go to their website. We're also going to, I think we already have put a link in the chat for a survey for tonight. It is so helpful when you fill that out. It helps us bring in more amazing people that are aligned with what you want to know. And we do a lottery for those who fill it out for a couple gift cards as well. So that's a nice perk. Um, Thank you, Cultivating Roots.
Thank you
Truly,
for
I could
having
tell by the
help.
engagement in the chat just how important you guys were tonight.
Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
having us
We
so
appreciate you all.
much.
Thank you all so much. Check out our events page for the events coming up next week in Spanish and next month with Dr. Mock. And we'll look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you to our village. Have a good night.